Okay. So this is Should Information Be Free? NFTs, Aaron Swartz, and Agriculture. So I'm just going to very quickly introduce myself before we get into the meat of the presentation. So I'm Kim Crawley. I work for SYNAC, which has pen testing technology, and my job title there is Senior Contributing Writer. So I mainly contribute content to their blogs, and I write white papers, and I do research projects for them. My resume just goes back like forever. But some of the more notable companies I've worked for over the years include Hack the Box, BlackBerry Silence, AT&T Cybersecurity, Venafi, Sophos, and it just goes on and on and on. So I co-authored the Pen Tester Blueprint with Philip Wiley a couple of years ago. Last year, I published my very first solo work, 8 Steps to Better Security, a simple cyber resilience guide for business. And I was featured in the first volume of Tribe of Hackers. I've had lots of very interesting side gigs. One of them from about a little over a year ago was researching blockchain cyber attacks for Valid Network. I am Kim_Crawley on Twitter, and I live on Twitter. So if you want to speak to me, interact with me, that's the best way to reach me. If you're into astrology like I am, my sun is in Capricorn, Taurus moon, Scorpio rising. I don't know if any of you care about that. I live in Toronto, and this may be a spoiler for what the ideology behind this presentation is, but would I right-click an NFT? I sure would. So let's get into it. Here's just a quick sample of some of the research that I've done for Valid Network. So basically, this little bit is about how authentication exploits are very easy to do within blockchain-based systems. And I did some more research on denial of service attacks to blockchain, which is very possible. There is block stuffing attacks. There's lots of other ways to do it. So if any NFT bro tries to tell you that blockchain is like the best possible security and it's so secure and yada, 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 I find more security problems with blockchain than the vast majority of other cryptographic implementations. Nothing is 100% secure, but blockchain is, in my opinion, less secure than a lot of other technologies. So I've got a technical audience here. Many of you may have an idea of what blockchain is, but just in case, let's just make sure that we're all on the same page. So a blockchain is a public ledger. It's an ever-growing series of transaction records that can be easily visible by anyone. And that's true. All the blockchains behind all the major cryptocurrencies and the blockchains that NFTs and stuff like that run on are all, you can view those records publicly. Crypto bros love to boast about how the public accessibility of blockchain is great for transparency and verification. Yeah, but it gets complicated. There's so many problems. So the total amount of data on the Ethereum blockchain used by the Ethereum cryptocurrency and NFTs, because most NFTs use the Ethereum blockchain, is over 1 terabyte now. And for just like a whole bunch of text, that's pretty impressive and huge. The total amount of data on the Bitcoin blockchain at this point is over 250 gigabytes. The data capacity of a single block on the Ethereum blockchain is about 1 megabyte. And I'll show you in the next slide what the Ethereum blockchain looks like. Blockchains were designed to store blocks of ASCII text data. This and the 1 megabyte limit of individual blocks are an important point to keep in mind during my presentation. So records are created on the blockchain most often through proof of work. And proof of work is a mechanism that requires computers to solve very complex math problems in order to record a block on the blockchain. This is the crypto in cryptocurrency. This math is performed every time cryptocurrency is bought or sold or used to buy something. Proof of work is also required to record a block on the Ethereum blockchain in order to create an NFT. And these blockchains are constantly appendable. They just get appended to, they just get longer and longer and longer as time goes on. And the data on the blockchains cannot be altered. aside from appending. So if you want to remove a block from a blockchain, basically you can't do it. And it just grows and just goes on and on and on. And as it grows, the amount of computation that's required to record a new block just keeps growing exponentially. That's why around 2009, 2010, you could mine Bitcoin with a Raspberry Pi. And now in order to mine Bitcoin or other major cryptocurrencies, you basically need a massive computing cluster, which is part of the reason why GPUs are so expensive these days. So each proof of work action consumes a large amount of electricity in order for very powerful computing clusters to do the math required in order to record a block. As the Ethereum blockchain grows, each proof of work for each new block requires increasingly complex math and therefore more computing power and electricity consumption. And of course, our capacity for electricity is not infinite, nor is the planet's ability to withstand all the pollution that all of this causes. So as I told you, I would show you what the Ethereum blockchain looks like. Here's a very short sample. So it's like a bunch of hashes and a bunch of IDs related to cryptocurrency wallets and whatnot. And it's all just most of these blocks are not even anywhere close to the 1 megabyte limit for a single block. It's just a whole bunch of text. As I mentioned, blockchain is killing our planet. The Ethereum blockchain currently produces as much electricity as an entire country, roughly equivalent to Libya or the Netherlands. This will continue to grow as blockchain grows. A single block produced by proof of work consumes more electricity than a household in the developed world consumes in a week. And that's for a single block. That's for like someone buys some cryptocurrency, someone sells an NFT is put on the blockchain. Each of these actions consumes more electricity than a household does in a week. The Ethereum 2.0 is currently in development, which will use proof of stake blockchain instead of proof of work. Proof of stake blocks require less computing power and electricity than proof of work. The crypto bros advertise it as being environmentally friendly, but I beg to differ. Proof of stake requires about a third of the energy of proof of work, according to a study by the University of London. A brief description from Wikipedia. So for a blockchain transaction to be recognized, it must be appended to the blockchain. Validators carry out this appending in most protocols. They receive a reward for doing so, which is called the gas. So it costs money. It costs money out of your wallet to undergo any of these transactions that doesn't get stored as money that you can spend, and that amount of money is called gas. So for the blockchain to remain secure, it must have a mechanism to prevent a malicious user or group from taking over a majority of the validation. Proof of stake accomplishes this by requiring that validators have some quantity of blockchain tokens, requiring potential attackers to acquire a large fraction of the tokens on the blockchain to mount an attack. Proof of work, another commonly used consensus mechanism, uses the validation of computational prowess to verify transactions. So proof of work is a little more robust than proof of stake. Proof of work is a lot more commonly implemented in blockchains, produces a lot more pollution too, because it requires a lot more electricity. But proof of stake is not environmentally friendly either. And what do we have here? Our environment is rapidly disintegrating. The temperatures of the globe just keep going up and up. And here's like an example from a news story here. Basically, the Arctic and the Antarctic are rapidly getting warmer and warmer, melting. And our Earth is going to be in a really hellish state sooner than you think. And this can't keep going on. So here's a chart that I found that basically describes the amount of pollution generated by a bunch of NFT-related transactions on a blockchain. And that's pretty scary, I think. So at even a third of the power consumption of proof of work, proof of stake still requires a hell of a lot of electricity. And it's an amount that will grow as the number of transactions to be validated grows. Blockchains are killing the planet because the vast majority of electrical power generation produces air pollution. Nuclear, wind, hydroelectric, and fusion power will not be the majority of sources of power generation in the next few decades. Basically, we're doomed. So the amount of pollution caused by power generation would be significantly less without the existence of cryptocurrency, and NFT blockchains produce lots of money from nothing, money that isn't generated by the value of labor or physical resources. So the money lust of these greedy crypto bro fat cats is contributing to climate change and killing the planet. I mentioned Antarctica has been noted to be melting rapidly as we speak. So what is an NFT? And I'm glad to see that interest in them is waning, by the way. So an NFT is a non-fungible token. It's when a block on the blockchain is used to store the address of an internet resource. Now, you'll hear people say that buying an NFT is buying a JPEG, but you're not buying a JPEG. You're buying a URL to a JPEG that I could easily find with Google image search. So you get a URL of a particular image from Google image search or from any other means that you want on the web. And that is no different from the content in an NFT. So you're not even buying a JPEG, you're buying a URL. Actually, you're not buying a URL, you're buying a receipt that says that you own the URL, but you actually don't. The absolute best description of what an NFT is was posted on Tumblr a while back by Queersimus. I'll just quickly read this out. So imagine if you went up to the Mona Lisa and you were like, I'd like to own this. And somebody nearby went, give me $65 million and I'll burn down an unspecified amount of the Amazon rainforest in order to give you this receipt of purchase. So you paid them and they went, here's your receipt. Thank you for your purchase. And you went to an unmarked supply closet in the back of the museum and posted a handmade label inside of it that said, Mona Lisa currently owned by Jacob Galapagos. So if anybody wants to know who owns it, they'll have to find this specific closet in this specific hallway and look behind the correct rooms. That's basically how blockchain interfaces with it. And so you went, can I take the Mona Lisa home now? And they went, oh God, no, are you stupid? You only bought the receipt that says you own it. You didn't actually buy the Mona Lisa itself. You can't take the real Mona Lisa, you idiot. You can take this though, and gave you a replica print in a cardboard tube that's sold in the gift shop. And basically we can get that for anything just by right-clicking on an image and saving it. So also the person selling you the receipt of purchase has at no point in any time ever owned the Mona Lisa. Now, if this doesn't make any sense or seems like any logical person would be happy with this exchange, then you've understood it perfectly. Thank you, Queersimus. There's a reason why this post has been shared umpteen times. So Anil Dash was the guy or one of the guys who came up with the original concept of NFTs. And in The Atlantic a while back, he discussed his regrets for inventing this. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll skim through it for you. So if you liked an artwork, would you pay more for it just because somebody included its name in a spreadsheet? I probably wouldn't. But once you leave aside the technical details of NFTs, putting artworks in the blockchain is listing them in an auction catalog. It adds a measure of certainty about the work being considered. By default, a digital image or video are perfect replicas, indistinguishable from the original down to its bits and bytes. So you couldn't store the actual artwork in the blockchain because of technical limits. As I said, the capacity for a block on the Ethereum blockchain has a maximum capacity of 1 megabyte. So a lot of images are a lot larger than 1 megabyte. So records in most blockchains are too small to hold an entire image. Many people suggested that rather than trying to shoehorn the whole artwork into the blockchain, you could just include the web address of an image or perhaps a mathematical compression of the work and use it to reference the artwork elsewhere. We took that shortcut because we were running out of time. 7 years later, all of today's popular NFT platforms still use the same shortcut. That means when someone else buys an NFT, they're not buying the actual digital artwork, they're buying a link to it. And worse, they're buying a link that in many cases lives on the website of a new startup that's likely to fail in a few years. So here's how the ownership of a digital graphic works. So according to intellectual property law, the creator of the original graphic has the intellectual property rights. According to computer networking access control, the administrator of a web server, which is hosting the image, has access control. The web server administrator may delete the image at any time. So in no way, either intellectual property law or your ability to control the image on that web server does NFT grant any sort of ownership. So it's basically like those moon deeds that used to be sold, where there's no legal framework to establish the ownership of land on the moon. So meanwhile, loads of NFT bros have been stealing the artwork of original creators to sell as NFTs. It's so bad that DeviantArt has a feature to help artists discover if their art is being stolen for NFTs. Artists have been loud and clear about this. Don't buy NFTs. Pay us commission for our work. We can even create something original for you. So, of course, the administrator of a web server can delete an image on their web server at any time. But if you want a copy of that image and you right-click saved it onto your hard drive, then the administrator can delete the image from their web server, but they can't delete it from your hard drive. So it's the one way to have a copy of the JPEG. So this is why NFT bros hate the whole right-click save thing so much. And this just illustrates how confused a lot of NFT bros are about how ownership of digital media works. So here's a story from Web3 is Going Just Great, which I have a lot of images for in this presentation. So basically this group, SpiceDAO, thought that by buying a printed media related to Dune, that they owned the intellectual property therein. Like, you know, if you buy one of my books, you don't have the intellectual property of my book. If you buy a DVD of Star Wars, you don't own the intellectual property of Star Wars, obviously. So yeah, this just illustrates how confused a lot of these NFT bros are about what ownership of intellectual property really is. And this illustrates, you know, all these NFT bros talking about, oh, but we're developing more environmentally friendly technologies. Well, developers have been working on Ethereum 2.0, which uses proof of stake instead of proof of work, and therefore consuming less electricity for a while, and they still haven't been able to launch the 30% energy consumption proof of stake version yet. And it might never come out. And even then, proof of stake still consumes an awful lot of electricity. So it's just lose, 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 kill the planet all the way down. Yeah, Wikimedia community request for the Wikimedia Foundation to no longer accept cryptocurrency donations. It is so easy to steal money from NFT bros. And here's an example of that. The OpenSea marketplace all the time has attackers intercepting it. And yeah, I mean, all the time cryptocurrency and NFTs get stolen, and it's like millions and millions and millions, probably billions of dollars worth of them stolen at this point. Another example of a very expensive, these thefts, like this story, go on multiple times every single day. And, you know, a lot of NFT bros and crypto bros, they think, well, we can't be traced if we use cryptocurrency. And that's wrong, because federal authorities obviously were able to seize Bitcoin that they believed was involved in a crime. So it's not true that law enforcement can't trace your cryptocurrency transactions. They can, and they can get their money back sometimes too. And here's another loser example. So the guy who spent almost $3 million buying an NFT of the very first tweet couldn't even get $300 for it recently. So now let's get into hacker culture very briefly. Hacker culture is not spend a shit ton of money for this information or this digital entity or whatever, or digital image. It's knowledge should be free, the free exchange of information. The free software movement is hacker culture. It existed since the 1970s. Sir Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web in 1990 in order to share his documentation through the internet while he was working at CERN. All open source, publicly accessible, open standards like HTTP and HTML. The dream of hackers is to share information and art freely with everyone, free to access, free to use, free of charge. Humanity and the sciences could advance much faster if everyone shares what they know. NFTs are antithetical to the spirit of hacker culture. NFT bros want what is free, such as viewing a graphic on the web, to be monetized. If NFT bros could monetize the oxygen we breathe, they would. This has scary implications. Of course, NFTs grant no ownership or access to images, DRM that corporations use to make us pay for video games, movies, music, books, and so on, at least grant access to its media. NFTs grant access to nothing. You're paying for nothing. NFTs have been correctly called DRM without content, DRM for nothing. So this has really, I'm glad that more and more people are waking up to the idea that NFTs are total bullshit. So my concern at this point is the next big crypto bro scam, everyone falls for it again. So look out for the next version of NFTs. They might call it something completely different, but I guarantee you it's a scam and probably killing our planet as well. So we're just going to briefly get into Aaron Swartz, who is rightfully a hero of hacker culture, and he died in his quest to make knowledge free. So I'm not going to read his entire Wikipedia biography here, but he was a young man, just slightly younger than I was. He was involved in the development of a lot of really important open technologies that we benefit from to this day, including RSS. He was involved in the invention of that, the markdown publishing format, the organization Creative Commons, which gives a framework for sharing media freely, the website framework web.py, and he joined Reddit 6 months after his founding. Notice these are all entities about the free of charge, and freely available exchange of information. So in 2011, Swartz was arrested by Massachusetts Institute of Technology police, basically because he was using his access to the MIT network to make JSTOR publicly accessible to everyone. JSTOR is a massive database of academic journals. Keep in mind the academics that do the academic research that end up in these academic journals do not get paid for their work, being in JSTOR and other systems like that. And he wanted to make all this science and knowledge freely accessible to everyone. And that's what he was arrested for and criminally tried for. And eventually, years of this criminal prosecution were so stressful for Mr. Swartz that he committed suicide. And then a little after, when he committed suicide, he was posthumously entered into the Internet Hall of Fame, and rightfully so. So this man died to make knowledge freely accessible. Here's a news story in The Guardian about him. Rest in peace, Aaron Swartz, by the way. And if anyone doubts how Aaron Swartz would think about NFTs and any other scam that these crypto bros come up with, here's some quotes from him. So, information is power, but like all power, there are those who want to keep it to themselves. With enough of us around the world, we'll not just send a strong message opposing the privatization of knowledge, we'll make it a thing of the past. But all this action goes on in the dark, hidden underground. It's called stealing or piracy, as if sharing a wealth of knowledge were the moral equivalent of plundering a ship and murdering its occupants. But sharing isn't immoral, it's a moral imperative. Only those blinded by greed would refuse to let a friend make a copy. And you can make a copy by right-clicking on an image, by the way. So we need to take information wherever it's stored, make our copies, and share them with the world. We need to make stuff that's out of copyright and add it to the archive. We need to buy secret databases and put them on the web. We need to download scientific journals and upload them to file sharing networks. With enough of us around the world, we'll not just send a strong message opposing the privatization of knowledge, we'll make it a thing of the past. Will you join us? And this is all antithetical to NFTs and anything similar like that. Again, you can just right-click on images and you have a permanent copy on your hard drive. So I'm going to I'm sorry about the fire alarm in my building, but we're just going to tie up this presentation. So I say right click on NFTs, right click on as many things on the web as you possibly can. Share knowledge, code, and data freely. Knowledge should be free. That's the hacker ethos. Hack the planet because NFTs, cryptocurrency, and blockchain are killing the planet. Honor Aaron Swartz by not succumbing to NFT bro or crypto bro bullshit. Go steal some apes, make those apes gone. And for some of the content in this presentation, I'd like to thank the website. Web3 is going just great. Dan Olson has an excellent video on YouTube if you haven't seen it yet, called Mine Goes Up. I would also recommend going on YouTube and searching for Nicholas Weaver's presentations about the technical problems with blockchain and cryptocurrency. And thank you very much. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Sorry about the fire alarm I live in condo building. So thank you, everyone.